houses who married the cool girl boy from your high school. What are they like now? My mom was the elite Atlanta debutante and lived a very cushy life at a budding Miami country club. Beautiful and very popular at the private school. My dad grew up on a farm in Virginia. They weren't poor, but they were definitely not refined. Eventually my father's family made it down to Miami after selling the farm. He became the lifeguard at the country club pool where my mom spent days lounging about. My parents say they saw each other and that was it. The scandal was great, the debutante and the lowly lifeguard. They just celebrated 54 years of marriage. My lowly lifeguard father made quite the life for my mom regardless of what all those elite twats said was going to happen. She gladly left the country club life for him and they are still so utterly in love, it's crazy. He carries a photo of her at the pool where they met. The only references she makes to being that girl are that they proved everyone wrong. They are beautiful and I love their story. Did your maternal grandparents disapprove of him? Or did they embrace your dad? Was it one of those challenges your parents had to deal with? They very much disapproved. My grandmother was not a nice person. And my mother's older sister was the most vocal about how her life would turn out. But after seeing how hard my father worked and how he treated my mom, her parents came around. My father was very successful and they live a comfortable life. My mom's life turned out far better than her sister's. I've never been close to my aunt. She reminds me of the wicked stepsisters in Cinderella. As it turned out, I married one of the mean girls. Didn't go to her school. Didn't find out she was considered that today I learned after the divorce. That's how it turned out. Then I dated one of the cool chicks. Did go to her school. Did know she was considered that. And she was the most amazing human being I've ever known. That one didn't work out either. Now I'm just retired from relationships for a bit. Strike 3 will kill me. I married the cool girl. Super athletic. Everyone was her friend. We started dating in high school. She's kept up everything people loved about her. Nowadays she isn't as interested in other people and focuses on herself, her career, us and our future. We are planning to buy a house and have kids soon. I'm the breadwinner today, but I'm not so sure if that'll be true in a few years, lol. I'm the opposite of this question. I totally peaked in high school, was cheerleading captain, valedictorian, prom queen, super involved and outgoing. Now I'm fat and very unnoticeable, not pretty and maybe not ugly, just bland, and incredibly shy and reserved. Don't really have any friends, but married my high school sweetheart, who was quiet and mostly flew under the radar, and now he is outgoing, successful, and more handsome by the year. My mom was the cool girl all through high school, undergrad, grad school, but life didn't go that well. For most of her life, she had to be caring for someone in the family who was ill, and that took a huge toll on her. First it was her dad, then it was me. I had childhood illnesses, then her in-laws in quick succession, then her dad again, and finally she had to nurse my dad until he passed away from a terminal illness. She was meant to be social and have fun, and instead she was forced to be around sickness and sadness for her best years. But she is a very happy and mentally strong person in general who made the best of things. She hosted a lot of people and events. My house growing up was full of people visiting and having fun. She's very charming and easy to talk to and has a lot of fans all the time. Though, my siblings and I find her social side rather annoying. She isn't like that with us, and she tells us her charming side is just an act, and the real her is the lady who is constantly critical of us for our own good. She likes having groupies hanging around, people who are happy to take her help and be grateful to her. She has very few friends who could be considered her equals. She also expects a lot from other people and is constantly disappointed. She wants to be the center of everything. She doesn't know to be a guest at anything. She somehow ends up running every event she's invited to. She sincerely believes she's helping, but it's just disrespectful sometimes, and when we tell her that, she doesn't get it. She likes to dominate everything and make decisions for everyone. We joke that if the Prime Minister was her friend, she'd somehow end up running the country for him. When you are the caregiver, you have to be in control and in charge every minute. That can be hard to shake, especially since it has been a trend throughout her life. She has probably learned some hard facts that way and seems to be critical when she is just trying to give you, in her mind, helpful hints for success. Being a caregiver is exceedingly stressful. By the way, go easy on her. That can be hard to shake, especially since it has been a trend throughout her life. That's a good point. I was only a young caregiver, but it still took years to shake off certain behavior once I became an adult and left home. It really does have the potential to duck up your dynamic with other people, especially romantically, because you've spent so long doing things for someone that it becomes the model by which you shall love. At least, that's how it was for me. I had to force myself to become more selfish instead of pushing help and support onto people when they didn't even ask for it. Also, it was a recipe for codependency and stagnation when dating. My dad was crazy popular, prom king, salutatorian, running back, serious ladies man. He met my mom in a nursing class in college, which he took to meet girls lecture course, and he was the only guy in a sea of women. This was the 70s. They married. He became a car salesman, developed a terrible drug habit, and died of a heart attack at 52. The car salesman thing was in the 80s, so it was like American Psycho without all of the murder, but with all of the cocaine. All of it. I'm surprised there is any left. Edit 2. Thank you all for the kind words and interesting replies. Also, my first awards on Reddit would be from a random insomniac post. I was only around for the back half, but I can tell you my father was magnetic. Even in his later crispy drug-addled years, he was still drawing people into his orbit with his awesome personality. Just flew too close to the sun, and then after years of therapy I could post about it at 3 AM on Reddit. LOL. She's still the nicest and gorgeous girl I ever met. Nothing changed. She is studying to be a pharmacist. That's something no one would guess, since she always loved history and her school didn't have biology or chemistry. We weren't from the same school, but she was one of the most popular girls from the school, neighborhood and university class. I met her on a graduation we both gave up. My mum was the nerdy girl who got all the A's and had zero social skills, and somehow managed to start dating my dad, who was the popular, good-looking guy who everyone thought would peak in high school. She was actually advised by her family and friends that he wouldn't give her the future she was hoping for. They got married at 19, had me when they were 20, and while they were pretty broke the first few years of my life, he paid for my mum to attend law school, started his own business, and 25 years later with 3 kids, they're still so in love and have a pretty cushy life. My dad actually met one of the loud voices who told my mum she was making a big mistake marrying him, and she had said how she always knew he would turn out well, which he found hilarious. So by paying your mother's tuition fees, he did help to provide her with the life she wanted. I love that. In my relationship, I came from no money, and my partner's family do have money. When we first got together, I was sat down by his mother, and she told me in sort of a warning way, "I don't want my son financing your relationship." I was a bit shocked, as quite frankly neither of us had money in the bank. We worked independently and saved when we could. 10 years in, it was actually my money that bought us our first home, not his. So it's my little redemption on that judgmental comment early on. Over the decade I've grown to know who she is, and while she is definitely money oriented sometimes, I love her very much, and she does have a big heart. Just maybe don't fire the cannons at your son's partner in the first month. Haha. My mother-in-law loves me unconditionally, but she too got a bit protective in the earlier years. Haha. She thought he needed a housewife. Turns out he wanted to be a part-time house husband, and I absolutely love my job and like being a breadwinner, and she wasn't used to that. Now she is a massive advocate for us, and she and my father-in-law print out my writing and keep it on the coffee table. Yeah, I think that's just a natural reaction. My mill was protective too. I don't think she thought I was good enough for her son. She would go on and on about a different girl that was his best friend. For a while he had feelings for her, but she didn't for him. After a while, she realized I wasn't going anywhere and decided to embrace me. 12 years later, and she refers to me as her daughter. I hope to be aware of the overprotective mom thing and don't do the same thing with my son. I think my only question to the person he dated would be, do you make each other happy? Okay, good enough for me. Mom was a cool girl. Still is. Still literally gets stopped by strangers talking about how cool pretty whatever she looks acts. But divorced husband cheated and widowed second husband died. So never really managed to get a happily ever after in romance. I've only seen her as a grown up of course. But going by pictures, what I remember as a kid, she hasn't changed all that much. I think sometimes she's too used to people being in her orbit and will get sad if something happens where she's not involved. Not overtly so, but you can see she's expecting everyone to always want her there. He was the one who had the six-pack who all the girls swooned over. Very popular. I was not. Saw him after just leaving HS and started going out. Ended up getting married in our early 20s. God knows why. I guess we thought it was just what happened next. He never grew up. All he wanted to do was play online games. But I mean constantly. He would get in from work, walk straight past me to the spare room, straight online and play until the early hours, get a bit of sleep, go back to work, same thing, again and again. Never wanted to go anywhere, just wanted to game. Eventually, I gave him an ultimatum. He chose the game. From what I gather, he's remarried to someone else we went to school with and has 2 kids now. I was told she had to give him an awful lot of ultimatums before he eventually grew up. My brother was one of the hottest guys in high school and went on to be a model. He's still cool and hot to many, but now he's a bit fat. He's my brother, so he won the hot part in my opinion. But women still swoon, and he's so obnoxious. Think Matt Dillon, etc. Era. He got dumped by his model 17 years younger wife for a 26-year-old. He has impossible standards, and it's making him miserable. He's into these flashy shallow women. Overall he's doing really well, and his business is thriving. Found out recently 30 male, that my dad was extremely popular in high school from my aunt. I had no idea he was an all-star football player with lots of college offers, and was prom and homecoming king. Never talks about it, but he's doing well. 2 kids, a dog, and a loving wife. In my opinion he's still winning. Not me, but my mom married my dad who was hot shit. They met in college when he was an absolute hellion. But since then he became a doctor. Still a really fun dude. He's also a licensed contractor, so when he was bored he built a 6,000 square foot barn in our backyard over 10 years completely on his own. Absolutely stand up dude. My brother married the popular girl. She was homecoming queen, prom queen, on varsity teams, in band, an honor roll student, beautiful, and super nice. 17-ish years and 2 kids later, she is still a sweetheart, beautiful, and athletic. Look at your brother. Did he have glasses in school, but took them off at a pivotal point while he was helping her studying for the big test and they kissed, but she went to prom with Steve the prom king anyway. But during the dance she left Steve and saved your brother from Steve and his gang who bullied your brother since he had new clothes and no glasses at the prom. Did that happen? Reading these answers about prom kings, head cheerleaders, quarterbacks etc. just has me as a Canadian going wow. American high school really is like on TV. The high school experience just really isn't the same here. At least not in my experience. I don't even think our ideas of popular were really the same. Mainly due to how much less important sports are here. I think without football reigning supreme it allows for way more variation for what makes someone popular. I sat next to the popular guy every day pretty much for 5 years, and I was so afraid of speaking to him. I'd watched him and his friends picking each other up and shoving the chosen one into lockers, or chasing each other around into a pylon and throwing their shoes at each other. Typical school shit. They were rowdy and loud and intimidating, but he was the quiet yet seriously funny one and I crushed on him hard for years. He remembers me as the little blonde girl who didn't speak to anyone because I was so anxious all the time. He also protected his sister from some assholes every break time and she'd come to find him for safety from bullies. Should have spoken to him sooner when school finished. Because we have the same music taste and we get on well enough now at 26 that we have a 6-month-old daughter together. My daughter from a previous relationship and we just got engaged last weekend. I adore him. He's handsome, charming and funny, and I would do anything for this man as he would for me. I married one of our high school sweethearts. We started dating there in the late 70s. A girl everyone loved. Long straight hair down to her rear end. Smiled all the time. Always in the beauty contestant shows. And always generous and friendly. Fast forward to now, and she is still good looking, and does not look her age of 60. Great mother and grandmother, and still as good a person now as she was when I met her in 77. Fell in love after we met couple of years after graduation. She used to be the cool girl, and I was the quiet introvert. Found out apart from being cool, she was also a very loving person. Married her. She gave meaning and purpose to my life. I can get through life only with her beside me. She is still as cool and as hot-headed as she was. Quick to battle anyone and everyone. If she thinks they are wrong, to my dismay. I married the student council president prom king. He jokes that he peaked in high school. Graduated 20 years ago. He dropped out of 3 colleges and hasn't found a career path he is passionate about. He hates his job, but he's actually really good at it. He's kind of trapped in it because it would be incredibly difficult for him to find a new job without a degree. He's a good husband. He's an amazing father. He struggles with anxiety and some depression. A lot of self-doubt. He's incredibly social and the pandemic hit hard. He's put on weight and hates his body. He admits that he worries about what other people think of him and wants people to like him. He's introspective and wants to be a better person. But anxiety gets in the way sometimes. He married a theater nerd, lol. But we didn't meet until college. I felt a little intimidated by his popular past. But he's very down to earth. My brother was a cool guy in high school. Even now, over 20 years later, he has what we call his fans that follow him everywhere. He has this posse built up of a rotating cast of best friends. He'll shine all his star power on his pick of the week, then move on to another one. He's very charismatic, good looking, life of the party, so it's easy to navigate to him. He married the popular girl and his guy friends' wives are her friends. He can also be selfish, rude, dismissive and condescending. I tend to avoid him, mainly because it's always a production with his gaggle of friends always around. Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing for more videos.